Hello, hello. How are y'all? I think this is mirrored. So, um, let's see. No, that's not what I want. I think I have somebody watching. I'm gonna go real quick. How are you? How is everybody? I need to share this. So, um, let's see. It might echo for a minute. Um, Hello, everybody. Happy belated Easter. One more place. That should cover it. I'm not sending it to a whole bunch of places. Okay. um, how are y'all? Happy Monday. It is April. I can't believe it's already April. You love my coffee chats? Thank you. I enjoy doing the coffee chats, and I am trying to get everything together for the newsletter and get a few things done for Patreon. And it takes a lot more time to edit a video than it does to just go ahead and do a live chat and then go back to doing what I was doing for the other stuff. Because the newsletter, usually I have out on the first or the second, and I'm not done with the stuff yet. And the live chats give me an opportunity to answer questions as we go. Like some people don't feel comfortable putting comments on videos. I have people who hardly ever comment, but they send me emails. So the live chat kind of gives people a different option, and we can kind of talk about different things. We can chat about the answers to questions, because if y'all ask questions and I answer, then that can lead to a whole different topic. And I find that the easiest way sometimes to strike up a conversation is just to ask a question. So, and I really enjoy doing the live chats. Um, they do make me a little bit more nervous because there is no editing. What you get is what you get. So if I sneeze or cough or the phone rings, I'm here. Um, but that's okay. I have coffee. I have my notebook. I did write down because I had a topic to talk about for today. I was going to talk about resistance, creative resistance, about, when we uh, feel blocked, when we are resisting being Omni Journal videos all yesterday. Okay, thank you. Um, big surprise, big surprise. Now I still have and am still working in my B6. I absolutely love my B6, but I've been really missing the Omni Journal. And I've been doing like a little weekly setup in my regular journal, my B6 art document my life journal. But just, I don't know. It wasn't really. So I had this blank paged Enigma. It's Taroko Designs Enigma. It has 68 GSM Tomaway River paper in it. And I have been doing things in it for Patreon, for PDFs. I had a couple of pages of little doodles. Like this was black and white. I just watercolored it. I'm going to scan it and create a PDF for Patreon. So here's a future log. If you watch my videos and you saw this and you got the PDF, the printable, this is my new project that I'm going to be doing monthly updates on the newsletter for, and weekly updates on Patreon. And I'm thinking about doing quarterly updates for YouTube. I'm going to talk about the project. It's called Project Self. This was some of April's little doodles for Patreon. And here's my March review. Now, if you'll see where I'm headed with this, here's April's. Hello. We're getting into April, and I drew and watercolored that. I've got a list of goals. Here's April's calendar. Here's April's log, and I'm not sure what I'm going to write right here. I haven't quite figured that out. Here's my tracker, and this is my word count tracker for Camp NaNoWriMo. My to-do and my focus for this month, and I need to finish filling out some of this. And here's my tracker. I've been drawing and watercoloring. This is this week. You can see that got the typewriter theme going on. And then this is this week's master task list, and this was yesterday and today so far. And I have video of me putting this all together that's going to go on the newsletter and on Patreon, because I'm doing an Omni journal again, but it's more of a bullet journal, a creative bullet journal, Omni journal. See, to me, an Omni journal isn't anything, everything. So I guess this is more of a creative bullet journal, but there are going to be other things in here. And here's the thing. This is not lined. This is not dot grid. It's not grid. It is plain paper. So it's going to, one, help me improve my handwriting. Two, allow me to create art. And I'm doing the planner boot camp with Enthusiastically Dawn. It starts this month. But this is my document my day. And what this is going to do is I'm changing up quite a bit of things. I've been working on my planner situation. This isn't really changing. Like, I still have the moon and the this is pretty much my year in pixels and the moon thing. I'm still using this more for function. Like, I have a weekly layout here, but this is more for function, where I'm using them in conjunction with each other. This one might have a tiny bit of washi tape, a few stickers here and there. This one won't have really any stickers, except like washi tape is kind of sticker, but I won't be putting stickers in here. Either I draw it or it's washi tape and I watercolor it. Like, I think I have one sticker, and that's because it was a typewriter sticker. Yeah. I mean, unless it's a sticker I've created out of my own watercolor little drawings. But it's a personal journal with task list. Yeah, see, I will probably end up, because I've been missing the A5, but not where I want to go back to doing my daily, document my day stuff in the A5. I don't. I really love having this size to do my regular journaling in. But, and I still have, like, I'm still going to keep, I have collections in this right here. And I've been putting it together. Like, I have different collections I'm putting together in here. Items to buy, wish list, that kind of thing. I like having this, and this is my idea notebook, where I write down like videos, planning, and all kinds of stuff in here. But sometimes somebody can be doing something and it works really well for a good long while, and then maybe you need a break from it for a little while. And then then you start missing it again. And one of the things that I love about Miss Vicky B is that she changes things up. She loves her journals and her planners, and she goes back and forth. And when you watch her videos and you listen to her, her passion for journaling and planning and stationery and things like that, you really shows. And when she talks about her method, which may not work for a lot of other people, um, you hear the message that it's okay. Whatever it is that you're doing, you hear that message of, it's okay to stop a journal and go back to it. Now, that might not work at all for some people. I'm a chronological journaler. And I don't mind going back and forth. Like if when I finish a journal, I can go to one of the ones that I haven't finished. Like I have a couple of A5s that I haven't finished, and I can go back to them. And I date my entries, so it's okay if it has 6 months from 2017 and then 6 months from 2018. They're dated. So you'd be able to kind of tell what's what. But I was feeling kind of, you get in that creative resistance thing where you make up a lot of excuses for why something's not working or for whatever it is that you're doing. And you can give yourself excuses. I have a love-hate relationship with the Hobonichi stuff. I like the planner stuff in the front, but I like the daily pages. I'm more of a journal or in the daily pages. And I go from when I think about planning, when I think about planning, it's a to-do list and a calendar. And then all the rest of the planning stuff is from a journaler's perspective. So the Omni Journal, I think, really works well for me, especially when I'm starting now. Oh, the curls. I think it'll work really well and changing things up. But I realized I was listening to her video where she's back in the Hobonichis, and she was saying that she doesn't mind things being redundant. And I kept thinking, maybe I'm being I talked about it in the planner videos. I've talked about it other places where because of the ADHD, I find myself needing to be redundant. But is there a point where where it's just too redundant, where you're spending time writing the same thing over and over again in a couple of different places? But what is too much redundancy? And I felt like maybe I was being too redundant. I had the same thing, all these different places. And every time I went to go write down something or whatever, it was like I was like, this is autopilot. And autopilot's not good when it comes to your planning. There are some things that you definitely should do that are more, habit related. But I knew I needed to shake things up. And I was getting to the point where I wasn't sure of what was and wasn't too much redundancy. And then her video reminded me when she was talking about the redundancy that there's no planner police, that you can do as much or as little as you want to in your planners or your journals. It was like I needed to hear her message. Her message was very serendipitous, and it hit me at just the right time. And quite a few other things have been really, I've needed to hear some of the messages. I think we get so caught up sometimes in that analysis paralysis and overthinking what we're doing, whether it's our journals or our planners or writing. Not too long ago, I was seriously overthinking my outline and my novel, the ideas for my novel, and things like that. And it got to the point where I had overthought things so much that I had talked myself right out of all the really good ideas, and labeled myself as an imposter, that I wasn't really a good writer, that my ideas sucked, that the novel was never going to do very well, that, this and that and the other. And I put the novel away for a good while, and it's a good thing I didn't delete all the copies, all the files or anything. because I really talked myself right on into thinking that the whole idea sucked, the novel sucked, everything sucked, my writing, me as a writer. I mean, and that happens, unfortunately. And I've done that with journal pages. I've done that with my art. We are our own worst enemies. Sylvia Plath said it best. Self-doubt. Self-doubt is it's the enemy of creativity. It's just horrible. And I have the actual exact quote, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Bullet journaling, the combination of a planner kind of thing, the planner system, and a bullet journal works really well for my brain, my ADHD brain. I'm a calendar person. And if I need two different kinds of planners, a planner / bullet journal system in a traveler's notebook, and then the actual creative bullet journal. So I'm practicing art every single day. Like I am going to be drawing something little every single day. I will be creating regular art in here sometimes, because this is still going to be where I create the doodles and the PDFs, because I absolutely love this paper. And when you scan it, it turns out really pretty. So I took a lot of time creating this. I wanted something that combined art and writing, and this was a really good opportunity to practice. Does anybody have any questions so far? So yeah, I've been talking about it, hitting at it for a good while now, but how I was going to go back to an Omni journal, and I am. But I realized when I was looking at my setup of how and what I was doing, that I really was going to still need, this to write all the words. The basics of this, and I'm not good enough with the handwriting. I'm 50, almost 51. I'll be 51 this summer. But my handwriting always goes to a slant. And I know that there are ways around trying to prevent that, but I've tried all different kinds of things. And the only way I can not have that happen is to use a ruler or a writing board. So, and this paper is kind of thick, so a writing board doesn't really show through unless I've got one, and I can actually take a Sharpie and make the lines really stand out so it would show through the paper. But I may or may not do a lot of words in here, like a lot of writing. I may do brain dumps, like I did watercolor and this. I haven't decided. I'm letting this journal kind of go organically. I'm going to let these two, the way that I have this, go organically, and that'll be that. I'm not going to stress myself out over it. And with the things that I have, that I already had, like the Hobonichis and stuff, I will go back and forth in them. And if that's what I do and I use them, and I can take notes on those pages or on the blank pages, or draw things, sketch things, I want to create art every single day, at least not outside of my daily document, my day with my journal thing. Outside of that, I want to create one thing every single day, something, a loose sketch and some watercolor, maybe sometimes something more serious, sometimes maybe just some doodles. Thought about finding one of the prompts for this month, because today's only the 2nd. I seen if I find one that I really like so far. A couple of the ones that I've seen, I don't think I would stay interested in. So I'm still looking for a prompt. And with being a Camp NaNoWriMo and Planner Boot Camp and this project self that I'm doing and everything, I know that I'm really busy, so I don't really want to overwhelm myself. You're not an artist, you don't have the supplies and the fancy watercolors, but you still want to try. Where do I start? How many journals have you filled up, and do you keep them all after you finish them? Hey, starting with watercolors, you don't need fancy watercolors. a lot of what I did, and this, I actually used my little Windsor, this I used my Winsor and Newton travel kit, this travel Winsor and Newton Cotman, which is student grade watercolors. These were not fancy watercolors, and I used a water brush. Did not use any of the fancy watercolor brushes I have. I actually used one of those little Pentel water brushes and my Winsor and Newton travel kit, because I did these while I was at my in-laws on Easter. And I did this, a pencil, and I think I used a Staedtler fine liner or a Faber-Castell, but for the watercolor part. I didn't use it. I didn't actually use the fancy watercolors for this. This is all student grade watercolor right here. Student grade watercolor. I think I might know this one might not be. I went back and did this one. This is student grade watercolor, I think. Now these aren't. These are my Daniel Smiths, and these are the Daniel Smiths. But a lot of all of this, these are actual. This is this right here, the mild liner. You can use Tombows. If you've got Tombows, they'll work like watercolor, and you can use them like watercolor brush markers. You don't have to go out and buy anything fancy. You can use Crayola Super Tips. I have a budget-friendly video about art supplies, and you can use Crayola Super Tips. You can use Tombows to work like watercolor, and they actually work really well. How many journals have I filled up? I have no clue. I've been journaling since I was 7. I had my first little pink Dear Diary journal back then, and I don't have those journals anymore. Those got misplaced, lost during a move. But just recently, I completely filled a journal. Let's see. It's right here. And I'm going to go back to answering the where do you start in just a second. I completely filled this journal. And I have a shelf over here, a little red shelf, and I have some baskets, and I put those in there. You're welcome. But I filled this journal. I was so excited because it had been a couple of years since I filled the journal. I don't know if maybe it was the pressure from, wanting to try all the things, all the fancier things, or what, but I felt, I get my creativity kind of got interrupted sometimes because I wanted to try something different, or maybe I wanted to try a sketchbook instead of a journal, or I wanted to try a different size. But lately I've been sticking with and I really love the B6 size for my daily documenting my day. So you've got room to write and room to do a sketch, or let's see, find one where I actually have a pretty decent sketch. You have enough room, like that's even got a tip in. Groundhog's Day. But I have plenty of room in the B6 to do some of the stuff. But it's not so much room that on the days with everything that I was going through when my dad died, my mom was in the hospital. The A5 was too big for me for a while. It was too overwhelming. You just popped in to say hello. I got too overwhelmed with the A5. Well, now I'm finding that after using the B6, I love this size for my daily document my day memory keep kind of journal. The journals that will eventually get passed down to, say, like my grandson Victor. Like there's a picture of me and him. But for some of the other things, and for my everyday carry kind of stuff, I really like the regular B6 size. But I found that I was missing the A5 as far as like the bullet journal kind of stuff went. And instead of trying to have a sketchbook and a bullet journal and stuff, I thought this, which is why I'm going to be calling it an Omni journal. This would be a really good way to do sketches because it is the blank 68 GSM Tomaway River paper. And it could be my creative arty art kind of bullet journal. I don't know, as a writer and a journaler and somebody who absolutely loves watercolor, this page right here of this typewriter just speaks to my soul. So I like to be able to do like that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really happy. Really happy. I'm behind with videos and I'm behind with some of the things that I'm doing, like the newsletter. But thank you. But the weekend was all about family, and I didn't do a whole lot of filming or editing. I was at my mom's, and then I was at my in-laws, and I didn't have time to do editing and filming and all of that because I was with family. And you know, it has its pros and cons, but I learned, I don't know how much longer I'm going to have with my mom, or anything. So I try to spend try to spend the quality time with her, which kind of put me a little bit behind with some things, but I'll catch up. It'll be okay. And when I get overwhelmed like that, and I know I have a lot to do, sometimes that's when the brain dumps and the journaling and the art and the writing and all really, really help me. So it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's not a good thing to need to catch up, that I need to catch up, but it's not a bad thing to kind of slow down a little bit and gather your thoughts and get things together so you can do what you need to do to get caught up, I guess. So anybody else have any other questions? Because I think the girl that had the question about the other part of the where do you start, which I was going to recommend Art Before Breakfast as one of the things to, if you want to start. I think this is like one of the most fabulous books to start with if you want to journal and add in sketches and watercolor and stuff like that. So resistance has been a big thing, and sometimes we make excuses. Oh, well, I really need to go do the dishes. Well, I got that laundry. I need to clean up the living room. I need to vacuum. Well, there's a lot I need to do. I don't have time to whatever creative endeavor it is. But, it only takes, well, depending on how many dishes you have, it usually only takes like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or so to wash dishes. I don't have a dishwasher, so sometimes it'll take me 30 or 45 minutes if we've had a really big meal and a lot of dishes are dirty. Laundry can be going while you're doing things. Laundry is not something you have to watch and are actively, once you put the clothes in the washing machine, it washes. You don't have to do anything with them anymore. Like back in the day when we had to use the board, people had to use the board to wash their clothes with. And so some of these things are really just excuses. I could say all day long, well, I've got this and this and this and this and this to do. But the truth is a lot of those things I could actually go and take my journal, my sketchbook, my book I'm reading, my whatever it is, my planner, whatever it is I'm doing, and I could actually take that with me and pop it out sometimes when I'm waiting in line or when I'm waiting for the washer to stop or the dryer to stop, or once I've loaded the dishwasher, when I'm sitting in the car and waiting, when I'm and I could look at a book or read a book or do a little sketch or something like that. So I think sometimes the resistance we've caused it. We're procrastinating. We're avoiding the self-doubt, the paralysis analysis, a lot of that. And I've been pretty guilty of some of that. Um, Way more so since my dad died. And I'm finally really getting back into the swing of things and the groove. And I feel like maybe it's time that um, I started getting in the mindset of being creative and taking my journal or whatever, my book with me all the time. Back before all this, you never saw me without a book, a notebook, and a pen, and at least some kind of little pocket bag, a little tiny bag of like a little travel thing of watercolors and a water brush. I had that with me all the time. That's why I like a big purse. It hurts my shoulders, and I don't really go outside of the house a whole lot. But when I do, and then I realized that I had kind of sequestered myself, become more and more of a hermit, and I need to stop resisting and get out more. Get out more. Even if I just take a long walk, even if I go right down the road to the park, I don't have to go do something like a special event or pay for something. I don't have to go to Starbucks. I don't have to, to get out of the house. There are a lot of other things that I can do, but I need to get out more. I need to get outside more. I need to get out and say hello to people and get the fresh air and, that kind of thing. Overwhelm is easy to feel. How is the planning course? I finished the planning course by Allie. Um, it was informative, and I nodded my head and stuff a whole lot when I was taking the course. And there were a lot of things that I found useful. Has it fixed my planner stuff? No. Has it helped me? Yes. Yes. I am now using a timer for some things. I've narrowed down some things. And I found that it was really helpful. You need to stay home more. I need to get out more. I found it was really helpful, and enthusiastically Dawn every year that for the last couple of years, I think she's been running this planner boot camp. Carrie Harleen has done the planner boot camp. And y'all, I might be having an article, a blog post, and the blog post will include a video in her planner magazine in April issue. Everybody, even the people who we admire, I know I've had bosses or people that I watch frequently on YouTube that I consider to be planner gurus or journal gurus, or and I watch those people and I'm amazed. But when you hear them in all honesty say, hey, look, sometimes I get into a slump. Sometimes I get into a bit of a planner slump, or sometimes I get into a bit of a journal slump or a bit of an art slump. We all go through it. We're not alone, So it makes you feel better. I found that one of the things I learned in when I was taking Allie's course, is that I waste a lot of time that I could be spending much more efficiently. I tend to get distracted really easily because of the ADHD, and I get sucked down rabbit holes really easily on YouTube, watching videos. But I do research, and then it's hard for the novel, and I do research for planning and journaling, trying to find things that are things I want to try, like a different method of how to use something with art, like China markers or watercolor, how to use different techniques and things like that. So sometimes it's hard to differentiate what is social media that's just playing around and really wasting time and procrastinating because maybe there's something I'm not really wanting to deal with, or what is social media and it's actually for work and it's getting me in a good headspace because I'm learning something or I'm figuring out something, or I just needed a break and needed to watch somebody create art on YouTube or Patreon, and it's not me. I think with the planning, I don't know if I will ever have planner peace. I think it is a little bit elusive, but I'm not looking necessarily to have because I love journals and planners, and I like trying different sizes. I like sticking to like the one thing. I need that one thing that's the core thing, and it doesn't really change much. Or if it does change, the main part of it doesn't. Maybe just the size does. Um, but I also like trying different things. So I think what I've been working on the last couple of months and the rest of this month and maybe next month, I'm not sure, is just getting my core system down where I have a system that allows me to pay bills, to get video content planned. So I have like, an actual plan with my content, strategy, figure out so that I can help grow and improve. And then have appointments and things like that all set up where I'm not losing track of things, where I'm more organized and I'm actually doing my actionable steps to meet my goals and I can tell. And then where I'm having fun and enjoying the process of doing things like brain dumps. And I've actually got more of a system now. And that was in part to Allie's class. So I think her class is really beneficial. It made me think, she spent a lot of time and effort with that class. You can tell that she did, and I really enjoyed it. And I still have access to it, and I can go back and watch some of the videos. And when I need a reminder for, hey, you know what, you're kind of off track here. You need to go back to tracking some of your time, or I'm off with some of the boundaries. Hey, got to do a little bit better. And I can rewatch some of the things. Anybody got any other questions? I feel really good about being back in an Omni journal and being creative. I missed it. And it's much more of an opportunity to one, plan, and to two, create art, but it's not so busy. When I was trying to decorate the pages for the weekly stuff in the Hobonichi, I don't know. This is more freeing. That's weird. Maybe it's because it's a blank page. Maybe it's because it doesn't have, so it feels more free. Anybody else got any other questions? I need to do an update for Camp NaNoWriMo. Does Mr. Rockstar keep a journal? No. He has a traveler's notebook. He tucks things in it. He and I have a journal from the very beginning where we did some stuff from back when we were first dating and from when we first got married, and we talked about, we wrote down memories of our first date and different things like that. It's definitely a memory keeper journal, a document your life kind of journal, but there are where we wrote things and I added pictures and little scrappy stuff, and definitely kind of like a document your life, project life kind of journal. But it's a hardbound journal. He doesn't journal. He's not a big reader. He likes he'll read instructional manuals and things like that, but he doesn't really read. I got him a book called the Zen. It's about the Zen of guitar playing, or the Zen of music or something. And he's read some of that, and every now and again he'll read some of it because it's about music, and but he's not a reader. I think the only author he's ever really read much of would be Dean Koontz. But he doesn't journal. but he's a musician. We're all creative in different ways. It's YouTube. That would be YouTube. I did that earlier, and I had the same issue. It's the blank page. I can design it yourself. Yeah, I think that's what it is, Kim. I think that's what it is. I feel more, I don't know. The moment that I kept looking at the blank pages in that journal, and I kept looking at the blank pages in that journal. And the first journal that I really loved when I was doing the Fibonacci stuff was a Nanami paper 7Cs standard. And that's the blank paper. That's the 52 GSM. And that paper is more cream, whereas this is white. I had a lot of freedom in that, and I finished that journal. I think there were only like 5 pages in the back that weren't complete. But ever since I started doing the doodles in here, and I was doing the doodles and like I left blank pages in between because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Like I did this, and then were blank, and then I had this. And then this was blank, and then I had this. When I got this to do the doodles for Patreon to create PDFs with. And the moment, and I kept looking at the journal and looking at the journal, and I like the white paper too. I'm a big fan of the white paper. And even though it makes it way harder to do stuff like this, and when it comes to the tracker, I did use, which is, you can see it's kind of more yellow. It's more cream. This is dots, and I cut it from Taroko Design Breeze so that I could have the dots. But I have some of the extra paper, so that's not a big deal to do that kind of thing with the tracker and glue it on there. I haven't made it through that whole book. I like the methods, but the book is kind of dry. I need to finish the book. It's on my to read. I even thought about seeing if I could find somewhere where the audiobook was free. Because I don't want to pay for the audiobook when I have the physical book. But it was dry. It was very dry to read, so I haven't finished the book. I do a lot of the methods in the getting things done. I've watched a lot of videos and watched a lot of videos that are summaries of David Allen's Get Things Done method. So, and I watched I think I watched every single thing that Boho Berry did about David Allen's Get Things Done, and the other person that does a lot of the Get Things Done. I can't think of who that is right offhand, but I like the inbox theory and the dumping things. Those are things I've always done. I've always done brain dumps. I just didn't call them brain dumps. To me, it was just getting it all out. You know, it was a sat down and I had a journal session and I got it all out, got it all on the page, and then I felt better. And I'm like, okay, now I can, go do whatever it is I want to do or need to do. I think a lot of these things are things we've already been doing, that things that people have already come up with, but that now they're repurposing or renaming, or they're putting other things together that work well together, and then it becomes a whole different system. I mean, what Ryder Carroll did with bullet journaling from my ADHD brain perspective is so friggin' awesome. I mean, he's not the only person I've been making to-do lists on a legal pad of paper and using a calendar for 25, 30 years since I first went to work at a bank, because there were a lot of things that I had to do, and, wrote down a long to-do list and put a little check mark when I started it and made the check mark an X when I finished it. But I mean, some of it's new and some of it's where they've revamped things so that it's a much more efficient and more organized thing to do. That's smart dots and rulers. Yes. I like rulers. I know there's probably a stencil out there somewhere. Um, and I like some stencils, but depending on how the stencil's made, you have to be careful about what kind of pens you use. Some of those stencils, you need really, really fine tip pens. So I don't know if I want to use. Ooh. See, this is live. So if I were filming this, y'all wouldn't see the yawn. I'm trying to think of the other. Oh, what? Eat the frog. Eat the frog is another thing. And eat the frog works. You know, when I think of the eat the frog, you do the thing you really don't want to do, the thing you're dreading, you go ahead and get it out of the way. You could just eat the frog. But every time I hear that, I think about the sometimes just go, you know, when you're eating dinner, you go out somewhere and you want to eat dessert first, just to go ahead and get the dessert out of the way. As a kid, that was, you know, you want to get the dessert because if you get too full on the regular food and you know your parents are going to tell you got to finish what you eat before you can get dessert. I draw better than the stencils. The more I practice with art and the more I do with the bullet journaling and stuff, the more freehand and less ruler stuff I'm doing, and the more freehand and free flowing and just enjoying the process and it being a little messy, my sketches being a little messy, and all that. I didn't use a ruler for these, really. You can tell that they're messy. I did use the ruler for this, but for the boxes, I didn't use a ruler. But you know, I don't know, the more that I do with art and the more that I read about art, I ordered this book. It took me 5 weeks, 6 weeks to finally get it in. I found it at such a good deal, though. It's John Ruskin's The Elements of Drawing. And it looks like a little bit of a dry read, but I think it's going to be really interesting. I love Katery Ewing's channel. Her watercolor stuff is, and her voice is amazing. I don't know why her channel's not bigger. But then again, you know, if I had her voice and her watercolor skills, I would be kicking ass and taking names. You hear me? I would create podcasts. But I found that the more I do stuff, I like stuff like what she does, like her attitude towards it. Yeah, dry read is definitely a nice. Here's the thing: if like when I started reading "You're a Badass," the very tone of her writing was conversational. When I think of a dry read, it's instructional. It sounds like a textbook from school. Like the book for science that you're reading that you got for biology class, and it tells you all. That's a dry read to me. Doesn't necessarily mean the information in it isn't good, but the way that it's presented reads to me more like textbook. Now I can get through a textbook. I did all through high school and college and my whole, you know, growing up. But when I find that they are dry when they read like textbooks and they're not more conversational style instruction books, it takes me longer to read them. And I can read a book overnight. I could read this book in a whole day and in a day and have it read in a couple of hours about this size book, have it read in less than a day, just a few hours if it's not a dry read. If it doesn't read like a textbook. I love to read, and I like to read instructional stuff. I don't mind that it's textbook, but if it's too textbook, it's going to take me longer to read because I don't find it as interesting. So I feel like I should have my highlighter and my pen and my notebook out and be taking notes, and the teacher's going to pop me with a ruler if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I read some of these books. And I'm 50, so now that I mean, it really brings back a lot of nostalgia with some of the books that I'm reading. And David Allen's Get Things Done, it's almost instructional manual kind of reading for me. Maybe not for other people, but for me, I found it a bit dry. Now, I've read books that were way worse, and his book is not. His book is a good book. It has a lot of really good stuff in it, but it's definitely more instruction manual type reading, if that makes sense, than say the book You're a Badass, which is very, very different in tone. It's a different kind of book, though. But there are a lot of other books out there, and I find them to be more conversational, where the questions are asked and the answers that they're giving you are make you think, rather than just instruct. And David Allen's has a lot of really good stuff in it that does make you think, and it makes you rethink how you're doing what you're doing, which is a really good thing. But there were parts in it that were just so far for me have been really dry. So I have to reread it. But you have to remember, I have ADHD. So the more instruction kind of thing, the more I have to focus and the harder it becomes when it's more conversational style, when it's more, when it has illustrations, when it's a visual and an instructional thing. I do a little bit better with the ADHD. It makes it really hard for me to focus the more instructional, textbooky kind of stuff it is. You have to engage me for me to focus. Seriously, engage me. Pull all my focus in if you want, and that when a book really does that, it's like I don't even have ADHD. I can completely focus on that book. But there are some books that do that, and other books, not so much. It does have a huge amount of material in it, and I'm not through with it, and I'm going to finish reading it. It's not a book that I'm saying I'm not going to finish. It's a book that I keep picking up and putting down and reading and picking up and putting down and reading. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's more instruction, and my ADHD brain can't handle only so much of that because it takes a tremendous amount of focus for me to do that. Yeah, exactly. It's learning, and you have to read and then reread. And and with the GTD method, if I don't take notes, if I don't get the highlighter or the Post-it notes, and my notebook and my pen, and I don't take notes because of my ADHD, because it is so sort of instructional, I'm not going to remember how to do all of the stuff I really wanted to remember how to do when I'm reading his book and it's telling me what to do. I'm going to be like, what is that? What is it? Huh? Because I just can't. It's like I did a lot better back in school with that. If I did this if I were back in college and I were doing it on an everyday basis and I had to really focus with textbooks and stuff, I would get back into the method of doing that, and it would be a little bit easier. But I have always, if I read it, write it, say it, hear it, I'm much more likely to retain it and to be able to focus on it. And all of that has to do with the way that my ADHD brain works. And I know that ADHD is different for different people. Like my husband likes instructional books. Especially when they have the pictures. That's how he likes to learn things like that. I need extra. I have to take notes or watch a video or listen to a podcast or if I'm reading it and then I also can listen to it on audiobook, much more likely to really truly retain it and get it. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what that says about me, but the older I get, the worse that gets too. The more I have to really knuckle down and yeah. So I don't know. I know a lot of people that have it, they're worse when they're kids and then they get better as adults. I was actually better as a kid. still had it, but the older I get, the worse it gets. One day I'm going to be like crazy. Can't read a manual to save your life. Yeah, I can read them, but there's no way that I could sit down and read a manual. Like, say I had a manual that was this big, and then I had a fiction book that was this big, and then I had a self-help book that was conversational in style that was this big. The fiction book, I could probably read in 2 to 3 hours. Have it read, sit down, cup of coffee, cup of tea, a sandwich, whatever. No problem. The self-help book I could read, and it would probably take me 5 to maybe 7 or 8 hours. Because even though it's conversational in style, it's a different kind of engaging than, say, fiction that is more, it's different. But the instruction manual, we're talking, instead of that 5 to, say, 8 hours to read, it's going to take me 5 to 8 days to read. And then if it's really super instructional textbook, very dry, it might take me 8 months. That's the difference. I mean, a few hours versus, so if something that usually I don't, if it's a self-improvement or a self-help book, unless it's absolutely horrible, I pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down and keep going back and forth to it. But fiction books, if a fiction book can't really engage me, then those are some of the few that I just won't really finish. I have a hard time not finishing the book, though. Even if it takes me months or a year or whatever, I'm going to eventually finish it. I just find it easier to read some things a lot faster. And I'm a fast reader, but not when it comes to that kind of book. I guess I should have put those pictures of that journal first on YouTube, on Patreon, before I went and showed everybody on YouTube. But I'm really excited about this book. I'm just hoping it's not going to be too... This guy was teaching people back in the 1800s, y'all. So I find it really interesting. See what year it was originally published. Yeah, it was originally published in 1857. You're now reading the Dark Tower series. How many pages should I read daily? That depends on you. I read the Dark. When the books were first come, not the first 2 books, but after that, when he got really working on that series again, and the books were coming out in hardback, my daughter and my son and I were all reading them, and I would buy 2 copies because I was collecting them, and then my daughter was collecting them. So when I would read, and then I'd pass my book over to my son because he didn't really want to collect the books. So my daughter and I would be like reading through them, and I would read it like in a few days. Some of those books were really chunky books. Some of those books are really chunky books. So, but when I was rereading them, I was trying to read them and read a book a month. I have not finished all of them. And my second or third go around, I finished every single one of those books. There's only a few books by him that I have not read. But you got to write it down because you'll be 52 in August, and I must be ADD because it's so hard to focus on one task. The only thing I finished is reading my action fiction books or food. Yeah, that is an old book. Like Zen to Done. It's simplified. I'll have to check out Zen to Done if it's a simplified version of GTD. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to check that out because I've been trying to get through. I like some of the methods, and I use some of the methods. And what I've done is go through his book and kind of flip through some of it and then pull out things. And I haven't read, like I said, I'm still reading the book. But based on videos that I've watched about the method, and other things, I've learned enough in the very beginning part of the book where he goes over some stuff to kind of hone in some of those things. But I think I do better with my getting things done part if I could really finish the book. So I don't know. I hate to say negative things though, because it may just be me, you know. It may not be the book. It just may be me and my brain. If you haven't read the Dark Tower series, and it's a lot different than his regular stuff. It's a cowboy meets the past and the future fantasy with a tiny bit of horror, but not like horror. See, I don't like horror movies, especially the stupid kind of horror movies. And for some people, they may not find them stupid. But movies like Saw, not a fan. Not a fan. I like a movie with a real story. Like, I like the Amityville Horror, which is sort of a horror. The Exorcist, different kinds of horror I like. Yes, I do take notes when I read. If I'm reading, I don't read, I will stop and pause my reading and take a note down, but I don't constantly just write down things. I only like write down things when it really, I don't know how to. When I was in school, I wrote down a whole bunch. The whole time I would be reading and I would be writing. Now I'm reading, and then every now and again, like, I'll stop and I'll write down notes. And then I'll go back to when I finish the book or when I finish that chapter, I'll go back and highlight things that came out of that chapter. If it's a book like Get Things Done or something, I'll go back and sort of take notes on some of the things that were really important. But I try to read through the bulk of it first and then go back and take notes. So I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, and maybe from my brain I should do something different. But the Dark Tower series is I love that series, and I like his books. I like some of his older books better, though, to tell you the truth. I liked his newer, but haven't read The Sleeping Beauties with him and his son. That I don't have that book yet, and I don't have the very last book in the Bill Hodges trilogy. I've been really busy with a lot of things, and I haven't had a chance to, one, buy the books, and two, to read the books. And don't want to spend the money on the books until I'm ready to read them. Especially when I can wait just a bit longer and then get them at a less expensive price on thrift books. So, it's your second go around. You take notes too when you read. Yeah. I think it helps me, especially when it's something I'm trying to learn or to research and investigate and see if maybe there's a different method for me to do something. I find that that's really helpful. I hear you about waiting for the lower prices. Exactly. If I can get it for $3 and some change or $4 on thrift books, and when you spend like a certain amount on thrift books, they give you a coupon. Heck yeah. It's not very often I buy a brand new book anymore. I used to run to the bookstore when it first came out. Anything he came out with, I was running to the bookstore. But the books have gotten so expensive, it's rare I buy a book brand new. Rare. I can't afford to spend $20-something, $30 on a hardback book. And I like the hardbacks. I mean, for some books, I'm okay with the soft cover, with a paperback. But for books that I'm collecting, I like the hardback. And for a lot of books, some of the books that I just want to read that I'm not like collecting, I'll go to the library and get the books from the library and then read them. Because I have so many books, I don't have enough room I need more bookcases. I need more bookcases right now. That's why you see books stacked behind me, because I need another bookshelf. So I'm gonna wait until I get some things taken care of. I need to do a few things, and then I'm going to be going to Michael's, probably maybe at the end of the summer, going to Michael's every week and using the coupon and getting one of their crates and then building my own bookshelf. Kindle versions do tend to be cheaper than hardbacks at first release, but yay for a library, you have to wait, but you're sharing resources. Yeah. I'm not a big Kindle. I have some Kindle books. I have The Miracle Morning for Writers on Kindle. I have the Game of Thrones set, except for the very last book that he had, on Kindle. But I'm not real big on reading on Kindle because it hurts my eyes. Gives me a headache. It doesn't matter whether I read it on the computer screen or I read it on my tablet. I forget reading it on the phone. It's too little. But it gives me a headache staring at the screen like that. No matter what you do to soften that, it gives me a headache. So I can't read for too long on a Kindle. No matter how much you can soften it up, it gives me a headache. And I'm already on the computer way too much between writing books and doing all of this stuff and being on Facebook and everything. I don't need to. I figure, you know what? I want more tangible. I want an actual book in my hand, and I want to smell the pages. Yeah, you've heard that other people say reading ebooks. It gives me a headache. Try to see if your son can get the book from Scholastic, but you're running out of room for books. Also, you need to renew your library. I need to pay a library fine, and then I'll be going back to the library because I forgot about a couple of books, and then I went to try to find them, and then I couldn't find them, and then I had to clean up to find them. So I owe a late fee. But that's been the story of my life since I got my very first library card. And it'll be okay. But I love the library is one of my favorite places to go. That's a wonderful place for an artist day. Even if I don't check out a book, I can get books on art and just look through them, and just enjoy being a library. I can look at different things that are there, illustration books and different things, get ideas, all kinds of stuff. Take my own book and go sit in the library and read. But I like to look at things and to get ideas at the library. When I was a kid, I used to read in a library. But now as an adult, when the weather's nice, man, there is nothing like sitting at the park or whatever and reading where it's a really pretty day and you can get some fresh air and some sunshine. Physical book experience. You're notorious for late fees and love the smell of. Yes. See, I like books. I like the smell of books. I like the smell of the library when the library is clean. When the library is clean. The regular smell of old books and paper and ink and things like that, and leather. I love the smell of leather. I find myself, I miss the library, and I think I'm going to start doing more artist dates at the library, and maybe taking my laptop and doing some writing at the library, and different things, because I want to maybe go to the park and read and draw, and then go to the library to write and research and do more artist dates like that, because I don't, like I said early in the beginning of the video, I don't get out enough. I don't get out to do things. Like, I just don't. I'm a hermit. You will see some very interesting people at the library and in the park too. Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah. We have a couple of different, like, we have more of a playground kind of park, and then we have more of a park where it's a really good, nice area to do like picnics and stuff. You like spending time at the library. It's soothing and peaceful, and you remember the bookmobile coming down your street in the summer when your kids. Yes. I've bookmobile. My kids too. They love the bookmobile. I love libraries. I saw this article about this one library, and And then there was another about a library that had pretty much all but been abandoned. That made me very sad. So I've been on here for over an hour, y'all. Does anybody have any questions? Because we've got I've been on here for an hour and 10 minutes. I hear you. Your reading time is part of your time to unplug. Exactly. When I'm reading, I am unplugged. There is no TV, no phone, no tablet, no computer, no nothing. I spend anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes or an hour a day reading. They are costly, I guess, to keep up. There are a lot of donors, a lot of sponsors and stuff like that for libraries. And they do have, I think every city or county or whatever has like different, like they have funds or something. I love libraries though. I don't think they should ever do away with them either. But yeah, I need to get out of the house more. It's a really good way. Do you do all of your writing on the computer, any pen and paper writing? No. I do a lot of pen and paper writing. As a matter of fact, is it over here? Actually, my notebook is in the living room right now. I have a notebook that is specifically for my novel. I have a notebook for every single novel. And I was doing write-ins with my friend Tamara on her YouTube channel, and I was handwriting, and a lot of people were doing their writing on the computer in Scrivener. And I write out my thoughts, like my summary for each chapter or ideas or some conversational pieces, dialogue. I do that by hand, old school. I learned how to write research papers on a typewriter. So before, I had a typewriter, and then I ended up with one of those Brother word processors, and the Brother word processor is what I used forever. And then I finally got a home computer, and that was like a major deal. It was a game changer. But I still, when I feel like I really need to get the words out, when I feel the creativity underneath the surface and I'm not quite sure about getting it out, but I know it's there, I handwrite. If I need to unplug my brain, not unplug from social media, but unplug my brain, I handwrite. It's amazing. Handwriting can result in using a Pilot G2 in a few days. Yes. I'd love to handwrite. And a Pilot G2 is one of my favorite regular pens. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite regular pens. I like it, and I like the Pilot G2 and these. The Uniball, and then there's another one that are my favorite pens, regular pens to write with. Some public libraries are better funded than others. Some can afford to hire professionals, some can't. They all do their best. I guarantee, often seen as luxuries and are vulnerable to budget cuts. Yeah, I would imagine so, especially in smaller towns. Stepping down from the soapbox now. Yeah, in smaller towns, yeah, most definitely. I think when you get into some of the cities, they have nicer libraries. They have more budgets. But you have a small town, a small county, or whatever, and yeah. Luckily, I live outside of the city limits. So I live sort of in the country, but the library is close enough for me to drive. It's like 12, 15 minutes away. So it wouldn't be too bad for me to drive. And I've noticed we've got two libraries in the city near, and one of them is a really small library. But believe it or not, the smaller library is much nicer than the bigger library over here. So I don't know. I love the library. But I was a kid. I spent a tremendous amount of time at the library. I was always at the library. So, anybody got any questions? Has it been that long? Your husband's actually reading and has his own bookcase. He is filling it up. G2, yours too. Bic Atlantis, exact fine, small one. It's probably new. Yeah, it is newer. But neither one of them are real old because the library used to be in a completely different building and they had problems with that building and they moved the library into its own. So it's now where I grew up, that library, but I lived in Charleston. I grew up in Charleston and our library was the bomb. It was a new one and it was really nice. You're wearing your Snoopy shirt? Yay. There's a couple of Snoopy shirts I've seen that I would really like to have, but I have more Snoopy pajamas actually than most regular, I don't have a lot of regular Snoopy clothes. I have quite a bit of, I have a couple of 1 or 2 t-shirts. But you love my live. Thank you for doing them. It's the first one you caught live. Well, thank you. I'm glad you caught it live. Macy's on sale. We don't have a Macy's here. I don't think I've ever even been in a Macy's. I know they got them. When I lived in Florida, I think they had one, but it was not near where I was at in Jacksonville. And then I think I know they've got one in Charleston now, but I don't live there anymore. So when I go to Charleston, that's the last place I don't really do. I mean, I do some shopping, but I go to my favorite places. And I don't think I've ever been in a Macy's. Hello? But yeah, I've been on for now right at an hour and 17 minutes. It's a fancy store with overpriced items. You go to the clearance racks. I go to the clearance rack no matter where I'm at. I used to work retail. And anytime you work retail, you realize what the markup is. And once you understand how markup works, you're almost always going to go to the sale racks. So I buy almost everything at TJ Maxx or Marshall's, and I do their sale and clearance racks too. I like Old Navy. I like JCPenney's, Belk's. But I love like TJ Maxx and Marshall's and Rugged Warehouse and Burgess from Turkey. Hello. But yeah, working retail, you realize real quick how much everything is marked up. So I don't buy, it's not very often I buy things at regular price or, But I'm about to go because I've been on here for almost 1 hour and 20 minutes. Even electronics, yes, electronics, jewelry, all of it. All of it. We're talking 300, 500% markup on stuff. Yeah. And I've worked at a grocery store as an assistant manager and an assistant head bookkeeper, and everything is super marked up. But I mean, you got to figure everything that we get comes via an 18-wheeler, a ship, a plane, a train. Unless it's locally grown where you're at, it has to get to you somehow. It has to get to your grocery store or your department store or your mall, your cars you drive, everything that you are doing, unless you are making it yourself or growing it yourself or whatever, it comes to you via some mode of transportation. And if they have to pay for the people to get it there, they have to pay for all different kinds of things. So I understand why things are sometimes marked up, but I think it's the price of groceries has become absolutely ridiculous. So I'm about to, as soon as Mr. Rockstar has some time off, once I get this dental work done, we're going to be planting a garden. No, so when I get done chatting with all of you, do I have trouble transitioning to another chore or thing to do? Actually, when I do this, when I get off here, I will go get me freshen up my coffee. And I have a video that I need to finish editing for Patreon. And I have a video that I need to finish editing and put together some stuff. It's sort of a montage of stuff for the newsletter. Patreon's video is actually pretty much ready to go up. I just need to watch over it towards the end and make sure there's nothing glaring that happened in between when I put it together in editing and then it's saved, because sometimes glitches happen. And it's ready to go up on Patreon. And then I have the newsletter stuff to finish, and I need to do a video. I need to film a video, and it hopefully will not take very much editing. But that's what I'll be doing. I have dinner is already made because we made dinner yesterday. We made a bunch of stuff, a big thing of what we made to take to my in-laws yesterday for Easter. And we made sure that we had extra so we didn't have to cook tonight for dinner. Because it is Camp NaNoWriMo, and I'm trying to cook double stuff so that I don't have to cook every single day. So I don't have any trouble with that kind of thing. Go with the pre-made supper. Yes. Yeah. Crafty. Oh, I got my mail. Oh, that is adorable. It is in the living room. It is in the living room, or I would pull it out right now. Thank you so very much. You are amazing. Oh, I got the happy mail. You made my day. It's going up on my board. Let's see. Okay. See that? It's going to go up there. It's going to go up there. Yes, I love it. My husband loves it. But it's going to go up there. It's going to go right on top of that blue thing of watercolor. Yes. On Patreon, do you wait to upload items until someone subscribes? I don't have a big following on Patreon. I think I might have 20. I did at one point have 25, but seasons change, times change, people come and go. I don't advertise my Patreon on all the different social medias like a lot of people do. A lot of people throw their stuff out on Twitter, and they'll take a picture of, or do a thumbnail kind of picture of something they're doing for Patreon, and they'll share it on Twitter, and they share it on Instagram, and they share it here. I don't really do that. I mention stuff sometimes in YouTube videos, but I'm mentioning stuff I'm doing. I'm not asking people to become patrons, because I think people will if they want to. I don't like that pushy, in your face, advertise, market yourself thing. I think that's too used car salesman. You're beyond the moon that you liked it that much. You were so, thank you. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's going up there. That's my writing desk. So I glance at it sometimes when I need a little inspiration. But when I'm writing and I need that oomph to go, okay, you can do this. You're not an imposter. Your writing doesn't suck, because art and journaling and stuff, that's fun for me. The art and the journaling, I got to a point where I was taking it super serious, but it's my hobby. The art and the journaling, they're my passion hobbies, but that's not what I consider. I mean, the only thing I consider out of all of that to be work is the damn video editing. I don't consider filming the video to be work. I like filming the videos, but the editing of the videos, I hate. That's work. But Patreon, I'm still kind of small on. I don't make a huge amount of money. I don't even make enough money to consider it to be a part-time job. It's like a part-time job. If that, I mean, I could actually make more money going and cutting my neighbor's grass every other weekend or every weekend. It pays for some supplies, and stuff. And I don't make much money on YouTube either. I'm not, a little income boost. It's to help with supplies, because I want to try different things and I want to share. And the more that I do make on YouTube and Patreon, the more things I can do, and the more time I can devote to doing all those things, I have, it is a nice way for people who like, and that's why I did the Ko-Fi thing. If you look in the subscription part, I mean, the description part of the video for right here, you can buy me a cup of coffee through Ko-Fi. I think that's what it's called. Or you can buy me a couple of cups of coffee or whatever. You know, if it's sort of like a tip jar, Ko-Fi is. And then they have the super chats on YouTube. Yes, you are that good, and thank you for making us feel we are worthy. It's a lot of work that you do for sharing all this thought. Thank you. Um, my Patreon page, I realized I was doing things and I got to a point where I was trying to be more like what other people were doing. I was trying to do more of what other people are doing. You go through that when you see, you know, and you're like, well, God, I grow more, I do more. Maybe I need to look at what people are. But if I did my videos based on my most popular, maybe it is coffee, Ko-Fi coffee. Okay, well, yeah, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Kofi coffee. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway. But I've noticed you have to have a niche. If you really want, you have to have a niche that people are going to be interested in. And you got to figure they're on just YouTube alone, not Patreon or Twitch or any of that stuff. There are millions of people on YouTube alone. Not when you count Patreon and not when you count Twitch or YouNow or all of those other things. Just on YouTube alone. And you really have to have a niche. And you have to have a niche that's going to be popular with the younger crowd if you really, really want to super grow, you know, because the mass number of people that are watching YouTube, according to their graphics, are people who are teenagers on up to in their 20s. So it's the younger crowd. I'm not of the younger crowd. I'm 50. My video is not going to prompt the response in the middle school kids or the high school kids or the college kids that it would be with a 40-year-old or a 30-year-old writer or a journaler or whatever. So when you're trying to do all that, I try to make my coffee chats generic as far as creativity goes. So what I'm talking about when I talk about resistance or I talk about self-doubt or I talk about the blank page, that could be no matter what it is you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's a journal page or a Scrivener page or any of that. It doesn't matter. Thank you. Thank you. I will be 51 in July. My son will be 30 in June. My daughter will be 27 in October. My grandson will be 6 in July. And my stepdaughter just turned 18 in December. I have good genetics. If I were to color my hair and get rid of the gray, I'd look a lot younger. But I'm getting tired of dyeing the hair. Getting really tired of dyeing the hair. So anyway, with Patreon and YouTube and stuff, 50 is the new 30. Yes, I completely agree. And I remember when I was in my 20s and 30s thinking about what 50, you know, when my mom is 20 years older than me. So when I was 20 and my mom was 40, I remember thinking what 40 was, you know, and I'm like, I don't feel like what I used to think 50 was. I don't feel like that. So anyway, Patreon, I know I could advertise myself more, share sort of thumbnail-y kind of pictures out on social media. Well, happy birthday early. And do things like that. And I would probably get more subscribers on YouTube, more subscribers on Patreon. And I would love to have, because my Patreon is small enough where it's very tribe-like. It's very family-like. And what y'all get in the newsletter is some of what I do just a taste of what I do on Patreon. And they get a lot of content. I wish I could do collage work like some of the people I'm subscribed to, but I don't know how to. I don't have Photoshop. I have Adobe Premiere, the amateur version of Photoshop. I haven't even learned how to use it yet. You just turned 24 on Friday. Well, thank you. You thought I was the cool young mom? No, no, no. I'm the cool young grandma. But I think I like the tribe vibe. Some of the people I'm subscribed to, I can't really keep up with some of their Facebook, like they also have Facebook groups, and I can't keep up with all of that. It's just too much for me to keep up with. I watch their stuff on Patreon, and every now and again, I will post a comment and like something in their Facebook groups, but it's too much. I would stay on social media all the time if I were constantly in that. So I like the interaction, but I find it really hard to, it's just so much. I can't keep up, not and do my own thing. And, I can't keep up. 50 doesn't feel old. You're not a grandma yet. Yeah. I feel like Patreon and YouTube and some of the other things are really good ways for people to connect with other people. But I've been changing back on Patreon to going more and more towards what really feels like my thing. I'm doing more DIY stuff now on Patreon. I'm trying different things. I'm talking about issues that have to do with the creative process. Some of the things that I'm having a hard time with, some of the things that I really enjoyed and were better than I thought they were going to be. And I do filming, but I also do quite a bit of voiceover stuff. Because, my ADHD brain, I have trouble. Like, I cannot create art, draw, sketch, watercolor, any of that, and talk. I can't do it. I have so much social media than you wouldn't create anymore if you did all that. Facebook, Instagram. Yes, I have a choice to make. I can follow a whole bunch of people on their social media. And I am in the groups. I just got rid of a bunch of groups out of my Facebook page. A bunch of different books. A bunch of different groups that I never even opened. I looked and it had notifications and I had not. Some of the groups, I don't even know how I got in. I wasn't in the group. Thank you, John. John is one of my patrons. And he said he's enjoyed the evolution. And I am finally getting back. And you go through hardships. And I went through a lot of different things. And, when it was really hard losing my dad and having my mom in the hospital. And I struggled. I really struggled. But I'm getting now, and Patreon's about to really get a whole lot better because I am doing much more behind the scenes, and I'm doing much more where I talk about things. I'm doing more posts with pictures. I'm doing more creative things. And I think the evolution of things, which is they're going to get the actual setup of this, even though y'all got to see it first. It should have been them that got to see it first. And for my patrons, I apologize. But it's in the queue right now being edited for it to go up. But and here's the thing, I am more of a Danny Gregory artist than and this isn't her book, but than say a Liz Steele artist. I'm more of a Danny Gregory artist. I think that's one of the things I admire. Not that Danny Gregory isn't an awesome artist. I think he is. But my big thing is I am creating art not to have my art in a museum or in a gallery. My art is, for me, a creative outlet. It's inspirational. It's motivational. It's meditational. And I was trying really hard to be something. I don't know exactly what, and it doesn't really matter now. But whatever it was that I was trying to do wasn't me. Okay, so you have to limit social media. It won't get anything done. Amen. Yes, I will not. Um, but that's what you need to be on YouTube and Patreon, who you are. Yes. Oh, you need to know about that book, Art Before Breakfast by Danny Gregory. I have 5 minutes sketching people, which is by Pete Scully. And then I have the architectural one, 5 minute to sketching places, I think, or something like that. And that one's by Liz Steele. And I love her art, by the way. I love urban sketching. I love it. But I'm much more of a Danny Gregory kind of artist. And he has some, if you were to look through and you were to look at his different things, some of his stuff is way more serious. And then some of his stuff is way more loose and relaxed. And I can do the super serious stuff. Like I can do stuff that looks more real, but I like the more illustrated, sketchy, loose stuff, you know. But anyway, to make you smile, remember art is my therapy. It helps you with anxiety. If it weren't for art and journaling and reading, I would be crazy because I have anxiety, depression, and ADHD. And for 10 years, I was misdiagnosed with bipolar. And what happens is they put you on medicine for ADHD and it screws with your anxiety or your depression. They put you on medicine for anxiety and that messes with your ADHD. You do this and you're scared to sketch, you're impressed with how easy you make it look. It's not easy. And I get paranoid. All right, let me find one of his messy ones. Okay. Shadow play. Where you're sketching the shape of things. You don't pick up. See? You start out with shapes. Just sketching where you don't really pick up your pen much. You just draw the shape of things. And then as you get used to different things, you start adding in more details. But see you can see what that is. It's illustrated, but it's not like super realism. You're an anxiety meds, you stop writing, doing art, you'd be in the depression state. I don't take medicine. This is my therapy. Whatever medicine they're going to put me on, and I could go back on medicine. I probably should have taken anxiety medicine when my dad died and my mom was in the hospital, but I didn't. I struggled through it and I made some mistakes and, things like that, but you live and you learn. Now, when my mom does pass away or something happens to one of my in-laws or whatever, I will end up going to the doctor to get medicine. But that'll be the only medicine I do is some anxiety medicine that I can take when as needed. I don't like the medicine because they give you a cocktail, and whatever cocktail they give you, it always affects something else. So this will affect this and make this worse, but it makes this better. But then this makes this better, but it makes that worse. And I can't, it doesn't, one way or the other, I'm going to have something being worse. So at least this way, what I'm doing is practicing more cognitive behavioral coping mechanisms for when things hit me more. And I'm not saying that everybody should do that. It's just that for me, I did medicine for 20 years and I was constantly fighting the side effects. And I started talking to my doctor and my therapist about getting off of medicine, and I eased off of it. And now I only take certain things as needed. And I try really hard not to take anything. And if I could get through my dad's death and my mom being in the hospital and not taking medicine, but probably really needing to, because I was a basket case, y'all. And it's been hard. It's been hard. I'm finally getting back to a norm. And it's a different norm because this experience changed me. Going through what I went through with my dad and then my mom if I hadn't signed my mom into the ER when she collapsed, when they took the respirator off, if I had not taken her into the ER, if I had waited just 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, I would not have my mom. I would have lost my parents both within that 24-hour period of time. And so it's changed me. It's made me more appreciative. It's made me turn inward in some ways and go outward in other ways. And anything that's that traumatic changes you. And I lost my real father when I was 7. So now I've lost 2 fathers. You know, my mom is doing much better. My mom looked good. My mom got a perm. She's always been jealous of me and my daughter's curls and my brother's curl. My mom went and got herself a perm because she wanted curls. It does always change you, Kim. Meds are tools. You need to use them in a way that works for you. Exactly. And for some people, meds work and they couldn't get off meds. For other people, meds are something that they have to kind of negotiate with, you know, but I prefer to. Coffee is probably the ADHD medicine. The coffee is my ADHD medicine. The walking and the art and the writing and the DIY projects and even switching rooms, having this color on the wall it lessened my anxiety. It lessened my anxiety. That purple was so dark. That was not good for my anxiety. You love the curls. Thank you. So I think it really just depends, but I've been changing and the evolution of that has been showing in the journals and the planners. And when Miss Vicky was talking about it's okay that she's redundant in her, she's back in a Hobonichi video, I felt like she was talking to me. I literally felt like she was talking to me. She was telling me, Burgess, it's okay if you're redundant. If you need to be redundant for your ADHD, you go right ahead because it's okay. It's your journal, it's your planner, it's your notebooks, it's your whatever. It's okay. Yeah, that color, Barbara, is actually a very, very pale turquoise. And what happens is in one light, it looks more of like that more green and undertone. And then in other, it looks more blue and undertone. But I found myself like, and I was doing something the other day, and that Patreon's going to get that. I've been doing something for this project that I've created for Patreon and for the newsletter. And I've been doing these things. And boy, I tell you, the synchronicity of it and some of the messages I've been picking up that tell me I'm headed in the right direction have been all of it. The 2 words that keep coming to my mind are serendipity and synchronicity. And I feel much better. I feel much better. I'm back to feeling comfortable enough to get into some A5 stuff again without being overwhelmed. I'm getting better about creating things with art, and I'm not an artist with a capital A. I don't have any desire to be an artist with a capital A. A lot of people are like, you should open an Etsy shop and you should sell this or that or the other. Maybe one day. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I could see myself doing a commission work every now and again. But I don't think that an Etsy shop where I'm so worried about trying to create stuff that people want to buy. And when you are taking something that's your hobby, see, doing Patreon is fun for me. I love creating the stuff for them. And I love when they give me feedback and they talk. You know, when they comment and stuff, to me, they feel like my creative family. It's like with YouTube, only this is a little bit more smaller and it's more, they get more personal stuff. But it's like Patreon is like my extended family. So, my creative family. So when I do things, I'm doing it because I love it. The fact that I can get extra money and pay for supplies and try new things and different things like that makes it's a fringe benefit. It's like the same thing with YouTube. I create content People like it. They watch the videos. The more videos you watch and the more you watch them all the way through, and the more you share my videos and different things like that, the more other people are going to watch them. And then I get a little change every other month, you know, and that helps get a little bit of stuff. But I do them because I enjoy doing the videos and things like that and the chats. I don't do them because I'm getting paid. Getting paid is extra. If I were to do an Etsy shop or sell any of that kind of stuff, like do that, then it's work. Like I talk about YouTube and Patreon as my work because those I need to do work to get the things done, but it's not my work with a capital W. That would be stressful. I made my own bouquets out of sheet music, and I used some real sheet music, and then I printed sheet music on different colored cardstocks and made sheet music roses for my bouquet and all the bouquets and all the boutonnieres, and made them for my wedding. Made them. And they are gorgeous. And people were like, you need to open an Etsy store and sell them. I'm like, no. I did it for my wedding, and I could see doing a bouquet for somebody else that I know, but that's not something I want to get paid to do on a regular basis because it's time consuming, a pain in the ass. And that's no. I did it because I wanted to do it and I needed to do it, not because I want to do it for a living. It's fun to watch wall colors change the light, but it reads as air and fire, and that's great. Yes. Yes. And I'm an air and a fire and a water. My 3 signs are air, fire, and water, and my husband is earth. Etsy shop, that would be too much stress. Yes, never want to work on commission. People saying I should knit scarves and hats and stuff and sell them. I would love to buy. Oh, Barbara. See, I can knit a scarf. I can crochet a scarf, but I can't for the life of me crochet a hat. Can't for the life of me crochet a hat. And I think they're gorgeous, and I would love to have a hat and a scarf and stuff like that. But would I want? I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want an Etsy shop either. It's a lot of pressure. You can't charge enough money for those kinds of things on Etsy. People won't pay for the true time and effort. Yes, that's part of the problem. And then the other part of the problem is that the moment that you switch things from you're doing it because you love it to it being work with a capital W, it's all work. And that fun will eventually siphon off and siphon off and siphon off until it's no longer fun. And it's all work with the capital W. It often takes the fun out of it. Most don't understand how much effort. Yeah, they don't understand how much effort it takes. I would rather create something and send it to somebody because I love them or because it brings them joy or it's a birthday and just send them than to have somebody pay me for something. And if somebody wants to tip me or send me some cash, like through the Ko-Fi or Ko-fi or whatever, or PayPal or whatever, and they want to, that's cool if they want to give me a tip. I'm doing it because I love it. I don't want to do it because that's just me. I don't know. That's the same reason I hesitated for so long before I even went on Patreon, is because it felt to work, take the fun out of, and then it becomes a completely different kind of thing. And I didn't want to be one of those YouTubers who gets on Patreon and then before you turn around, they've got maybe 1 video a month if you're lucky, maybe 2. And then you hardly ever see them on YouTube. But YouTube's what got them to the point where they could get on Patreon. And I understand that Patreon is helping to pay for, and it's their income now. That's their job. But the only way to keep building Patreon and to keep growing as your job, like if you were a photographer and and you relied on your website and say Instagram and word of mouth and advertising on Google where people pull up photography in your area, people would be paying you to take your pictures. It's a creative endeavor. People would be leaving reviews and stuff like that. Like Etsy shop is kind of like a Patreon. But in order for you to get what's on your Etsy shop, for you to advertise what's on your Etsy shop, you have to take pictures and put them on Instagram. You have to send out notices on wherever it is that people who, you have to get to a point where people actually know you're on Etsy. And if you get on Etsy and then you start doing really well because you put those pictures on Instagram, because you put those pictures out there, because you got that website out there, but then you stop doing some of the very things that got you to the point where you're successful or you're getting successful, then after a while, I mean, you might have this little niche of this little group of, but you're not going to grow, like really grow, So I want to be careful because right now I'm small on Patreon. But I'm never going to grow on Patreon if I don't stay on YouTube. Does that make sense? I think I had a hard time differentiating between what I put on Patreon and what I put on YouTube. And I'm finally at that, oh my God, light bulb moment, serious, because before I understood it, but not really. It took me really being a patron of other people for me to completely get what I needed to do. Because I had a hard time. Why would anybody want to see me draw, plan? Same reason I like watching other people, but I was having a hard time because I'm like, why do they want to watch me? You totally agree. That's why you don't sell handmade cards. Yes. When I was in my teens, I wanted to write a bestseller and become rich and famous. Maybe why I've never finished a novel. I don't care about the rich and famous. I just want to finish my novel and get it out there. And if my novel does well and I can, in the process later on down the road, become rich and famous, then hey, cool. But my main goal is to get it done and to hopefully get it out there. But like on Patreon, I'm not trying to become rich and famous on Patreon. I, as a matter of fact, would be okay with like 100 to 200 people on Patreon, patrons. I think once you start getting past that, then it gets really, really, I don't know that I will. I think I'd actually, at this point, I think I'd be cool with 100 would be a lot for me because I'm like at 2025. My goal when I first was doing some of this was to get like 200 or 300. And then I'm like, oh my God, the thought of it now overwhelms me. So now I'm thinking 50, 100, that'd be good. I know that I can make a lot more. And I know there are some of the things, I know what some of the things I could do to grow on YouTube and to grow on Patreon would be, but that would mean not doing some of the things that I do, not to be more professional, more streamlined background, less mess, less accent, more professional, more, yeah. And I don't know that I want to give up being completely authentic and real, where I show the mess and I show the mistake. I show the mistakes. And if a DIY project turns out well and it does really good, then cool. Cool. I did a DIY of masking fluid. And one of the things worked really well and the other one didn't. And I was like, some videos on Patreon, you hear me cuss. Sometimes you hear I'll drop something or something will happen or it doesn't work. And then I'm like, but then you talk about it. Like some things work. That's why I was really hesitant to do the Arteza watercolor review. Because anyway, keep doing what you do. You're here for it. Yay. Thank you. The thought of Patreon at all and YouTube is too much for me. So hats off to you. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. And I think the reason it's a full-time job for me, why it takes me so long and sometimes things get late and they don't come up is because I have such a hard time editing videos. I really need to just buckle down and take a real class and figure out how. because I don't understand technology and video editing and all that. People, there are words, and I'm like, what does that mean? But anyway, that's my biggest issue with any of it is the video editing. And I am learning now Adobe Premiere Elements, which is a video editing software, and I'm trying to learn it and get better at it so that it's not such hard work. You handwrite when you need to get your brain started and switch the computer as your stream starts flowing. We love what you do. Keep doing it. Stay you, all neat and prim. All neat and prim. Yeah, I'm not neat and prim. I am not neat and prim. Prim. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Kim, but yeah. I just believe in authenticity. I would rather be real and only have 20 people on Patreon, and be real and still be struggling 3.5 years, and I'm not quite at 3K. I think I might be at 3K when I hit the 4-year mark, which is very slow. You didn't mean go prim and proper. Oh, okay, good. I meant don't go prim and proper. Power Director is easy for editing. I had Power Director and I couldn't. I just couldn't. I couldn't. Power Director was not easy for me. I had a hard time with Power Director. But I found that the more that I struggled to do something that wasn't me, the more struggle it was, and it became to the point where I was overwhelmed with it. And now I would, like I said, I'd rather stay at slow and steady, and never go like big on YouTube or big on Patreon, than to not be authentic. And I think you can be authentic and be, without, and still be like with a better aesthetic background, because believe me, I've looked at how I could possibly do this so that how the room is arranged now, it wouldn't be so kind of, and I thought, okay, well, if I could arrange this where this, and I'm like thinking, I don't know. I'll figure it out, and eventually, I'll get it where I can sit like right here in front of the writing desk, or I can sit right here in front of the craft table, and what you'll see is what I actually do behind me. But I'm okay with, I mean, I don't know. It's not something that super stresses me out, the background. So that part's not really a big deal. What is a big deal, what feels like a big deal to me, is just remembering, I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this because I want to do this. And it is work. And Patreon is different than YouTube. And that's okay, because I finally figured out what I'm supposed to be doing on Patreon. And there is some crossover, but people are paying money every month to see more original content and extra stuff and previews. If you were all that and clean, no mess, I wouldn't be able to associate you. It would be too perfect. Yeah. I don't think you're going to have to worry about that. Because, yeah, my trash is spilling over right now. I need to, as soon as I get off of here, go take that. And it's almost time for me to get off of here, because I have been on here for 2 hours now, and Miss Rockstar is going to be home very soon. And I have not done anything because I've been on here for an hour more than I expected, but that's okay. And I'm going to hit the upload button. Hey, I'm going to hit the upload button so Patreon gets their video. And if they've watched this, they're going to be a little bit, because there's going to be a little bit of redundancy in there. But hey, messy folks unite. Yeah, I am a creative clutter kind of person. Everywhere I go in the house, there's going to be a little bit of a creative mess. You can tell where I've been in the house. Not only does my hair shed and my hair gets everywhere, but I also end up with washi tape stuck to the bottom of my shoes, washi tape stuck to my pins, and I end up with little pieces of paper all over the house. And he can tell. Mr. Rockstar's like, I can tell where you've been today, because there's going to be a little tiny Burgess mess of different things wherever I've been at in the house, because that's me. So I will see y'all later. Y'all have a great night. And I thank you. I will have a good dinner. You got to go eat, but so glad you got to see me. I'm going to eat too. Y'all have a good one, and I'll see you again soon. If you have any questions or anything, please put them.